And welcome back. Well, welcome back to the next video in our series. If you're watching these in order, in the previous video, we got a lot of work accomplished in reference to a lot of our electrical, in reference to our engine wiring harness, as well as getting the underside and the necessary sensors and knock sensors and things of that nature wired back into the system. Went ahead and got our spark plugs in the last video, as well as our coil packs, again with the exception of number 8, which has been on order and I'll have to wait for that one to come in. But plugs, coils, electrical, went ahead and mounted our replacement alternator and our new idler pulley, as well as our tensioner arm. Now this is going to be part of the original accessories of the vehicle. And the supercharger, as we know, is going to be driven by its separate belt. So there's two more accessories that I'd like to concentrate on first in this video, getting mounted back to the block. And there's going to be the power steering pump, which is going to sit here, and then we've got the air conditioning compressor there. So we're going to reuse the old power steering pump. There's nothing wrong with it. We just need to clean it up a little bit. Now, if you watch the previous parts video, and we'll cover these part numbers when we get to it, is that we have all new lines for this power steering unit, because it looked like maybe there was possibly a little bit of a leak right where it goes either in or out of the cooler there. So what we're going to do is just get this hard line here disconnected from the pump, and then the line off the bottom of the reservoir. We'll take this outside. We'll spray it down with some brake clean, at least get it cleaner than what it is now, get some of the dirt knocked off of it, and then we'll come in here and get it mounted. Once that's complete, then we'll start looking at the AC compressor. Now, looking over the instructions of the AC compressor, according to, and this is put out by Four Seasons, it's just a generic replacement because A, it was available. This compressor, according to the documentation, comes pre-charged with 3 ounces of oil. And looking over the manual for AC service on this particular truck, based on the item that we're changing, dictates whether you have to add extra oil to the system to compensate. But when it comes to the compressor, they want us to measure the oil out of the old compressor first, and then make sure the new compressor has the same amount. So what they're going for is that they know the given capacity of this particular AC system is X number of ounces of oil. And if you're swapping just a compressor and only a compressor, you dump the oil out of the old one, measure it, make sure you've got the same amount of oil in the new one, so you're not over or under filling the system. Now, we're also doing a condenser, which means we have to add X number of ounces of additional oil to the system at some point. But for now, what we can do, since we're not ready to attach to the AC lines and we know what the oil this is already filled with, we can at least measure the oil contents of the old one. And I bought some special disposable cups that will help us measure the amount of ounces of oil that we get out, and I'll put a link to those in the description in case anybody's looking for the same. And if we get 3 ounces of oil out of the old one, great. That means we don't have to alter this one. If we get more than 4 ounces or 3 ounces of oil in the old one, then we have to add to compensate and or subtract. And when we get to doing the condenser, when we put the front of the truck back together, and I'll show you that chart at that time, and there's a chart that tells you when you're doing a condenser how many additional ounces of oil to add to the system for this particular vehicle. And it's true for most of the AC components in any AC system, that based on the component you're changing out, you may have to either add or subtract oil. So with that long ramble kind of over with, what I'm going to do, like I said, is just kind of crack this fitting loose here and take this hose fitting down at the bottom of the reservoir off, and at least allow us to go outside and kind of clean this up. and then I'll bring you back and we'll look to getting this on the vehicle. Now for giggles, and I don't think we're gonna need it, but just for giggles, I did buy a new power steering pump pulley, but this one looks, it's a little bit old, but it may clean up okay. But I don't see any cracks or dings or any missing ribs in it, so I think we'll leave well enough alone and just kind of go with the pulley that's on there. One of the reasons being is that if you look at this pulley, it doesn't seat all the way flush with this nub. There's a little bit of a lip. So if we had to replace it because it was damaged, we just need to be mindful, if you're going to replace this, that you're pushing it onto the correct depth, you know, so your belt alignment stays intact. All right, so let me go ahead and do that. Again, fitting, hose clamp fitting. We'll get this pump and reservoir tank out of here, get it cleaned up. I'll bring it right back. One moment. And welcome back. So I got you zoomed in here a little bit where our power steering pump is going to mount. Got it cleaned up a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's a far cry better, at least in my opinion, than what it was. No matter how much fluid you get out of one of these power steering pumps, it seems like more and more and more just continue to drip out of it. So what happens with this is you can just rotate your power steering pump to get to your bolts. And I don't know if you can see that there. It's just when I thought all the drips were done, it's dripping again just by turning that pump. So we're going to have to keep a supply of shop towels underneath of it. Let's see here. There we go. See if we can get our bolts in. At least started. And then we'll put our hoses and everything, our new line set, onto this pump. Obviously, when we get to the point of putting the front radiator support back in, which is where the power steering cooler radiator resides, then we'll put the new line set on at that time. Okay, that one is started. Let me turn you a little bit. There we go. Just 3 bolts, 13 millimeter. Now, when you order, if you have to buy a new pump, you can get the pump separately from the reservoir. You can also, that way, if you just have to do a pump, you can do just a pump, or if something happens to the reservoir and you just have to do just that, you can. I don't know, I'm tempted to maybe get a new reservoir for this, but you know, then again, it's fine, it'll work. Okay. right, good. So that'll get that on there. Like I said, we're just gonna leave some drip towels underneath that for the time being, at least until we get our line sets on. So got quite a bit of fluid out of it, but still continues to dribble a little bit. So now that we got that accessory in place where it would normally mount, we can work on getting the compressor in here next, and then finally our accessory pulley onto our ATI hub, and then we can route our accessory belt and get that on here. So let me go grab the old compressor measuring cup, bring you right back. And welcome back. So I got you up on a little bit of a stool here, and what you're zoomed into is the factory Chrysler AC compressor, the original one out of this 2012 here. And if you recall from the previous video, we are replacing this along with the line sets going to it. But one of the things we need to do is take a look at how much oil is still in that factory compressor. So I found these on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. But they're just little disposable clear plastic cups that are graduated, as you can see. And they will list up to 1 cup, 8 ounces on that side of the cup. And if you need milliliters, it's on that side of the cup. So we're just going to use this to hopefully give us at least an approximation of how much oil is in this compressor, so we can compare it with the replacement compressor telling us that it's at least pre-filled with 3 ounces of oil. Now again, we're not going to get every drop out of this compressor, but at least we can get close enough to kind of go from there. Now, when this system was recovered, there wasn't very much refrigerant left in it, which tells me that there was definitely a slow leak somewhere. There's evidence that there's been dye injected into the system and the whole 9 yards. This is kind of one of the reasons why we're doing this, is that, again, new compressor, new line sets. We already did the expansion valve in a previous video as part of this build series, and then we'll do the new condenser when we get ready to put the radiator and everything in. So the only component that should remain new is the liquid line that's in the engine compartment, because trying to find a replacement of that one is proving difficult. And it looks like even if someone were to get one in, it would be kind of cost prohibitive. It's kind of an expensive line. The liquid line, these 2 lines we got aftermarket, but nobody seems to make the liquid line that I showed in the previous video in the aftermarket. Not sure why. But I think the liquid line that we have in the engine bay is fine. It's not nicked, it's not rubbed, anything of that nature. But we will replace the Schrader valves in that line, as those most automotive AC Schrader valves do tend to leak over time. And most AC shops, when you get your AC serviced, usually will replace those for that reason. So the first thing we're going to do is see if we can get these lines off of here to make this compressor a bit easier to deal with. And these are 13 millimeter. And of course, obviously, you can see that the lines are disconnected. There's no pressure left in this thing. Definitely do not do this if there's still pressure in your AC system. You'll be in for a rather rude awakening. It's factory, so it's a pretty good bet that it's going to be original to the truck. Like I said, for all intents and purposes, it is a good compressor. It hasn't proven to be leaking or fouled yet. I mean, so we'll definitely hold on to it. Okay, so now that we got our line sets removed and we can more easily turn this thing around. And yes, the new compressor, and I'll show that to you, did come with all new O-rings. So did the new line sets. Let's see, am I going to be able to capture all of that? I'll tell you what I may have to do. Let me grab a glove and I'll just kind of plug this one off, and we'll pour out of this port. So when we're done putting the truck back together, the only part of the AC system other than the liquid line, I forgot to mention this, I apologize, that will not be replaced is the evaporator core inside the cab, because that would require dismantling the entire dash, removing the HVAC box in order to gain access to that, and that is a pain in the rear. So we're going to go with the assumption, and hopefully that isn't leaking. Not to say that they can't. Okay. Is this thing dry? Nothing came out of it at all. So let's try our other port. We get the cup out where you can actually see this. And it's got that nice neon tinge to it. Interesting. So I would assume whatever leak this thing has seems to have potentially blown all the oil out of the AC system. That should drain out of those ports. Don't see a drain port on it. Looks like there might be a little bit in there. Okay, let's see. Let's try this again. I'm just going to plug up this rear port here. Yeah, we're only getting a dribble out of here. Yeah, there isn't anything in this compressor. That's rather concerning. If that is the case, we're low in oil. We're extremely low in oil. So what we'll need to do is consult the book. We know the new compressor is going to come preloaded with 3. We know how much oil is usually added to the system to account for the evaporator core that we're not replacing, and how much oil we need in the system to account for the new condenser. And we'll have to make sure we factor all that in with the total amount of oil that should be in the system. That's interesting. So there's nothing left in this compressor from the looks of it. Let's try this again. I know, riveting content. turning the compressor rotor as well. See if we can get anything out of it. And you can kind of hear it gurgling a little bit. Yeah, that's it. I mean, what's kind of coming out of it is just residual. It looks like that's just inside the compressor. Like I said, I'm draining it the way they say to drain it. And let's see here. That's not much. I know a little bit leaked when it was all being taken apart and dismantled, but nothing to this level that it should have been that empty. And you can see that that oil is a nice kind of translucent yellow. It's kind of got the dye has been added to it, so they were definitely looking for a leak, I would assume. All right, so like I said earlier, what we'll have to do is just kind of be mindful that the total capacity of oil in the system when we get to that point. Again, we know the new compressor is supposedly coming with 3 ounces already added. And then we'll have to add oil to account for the condenser, and then add into our total the amount that should still be there, because we're not replacing the again, the evaporator core. So we'll have to take the amount you would normally add when they say you are replacing an evaporator core, and make sure that we just chalk that up as supposedly being already in the system, which is, if I had to guess, and we'll look at the chart later, it's probably 1 ounce. And yeah, so we'll have to do a little bit of number crunching. Shouldn't be too bad. I'm gonna look at this compressor a bit more just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. But what we'll do next is I'll bring it back. We'll get the new one out of the box, and we'll get it bolted to the block. So one moment. And welcome back. So I just got you zoomed in here where our compressor is going to mount. It's got 3 mount points, 2 in the timing cover and 1 back here on the engine block. And what we're going to do, and again, per the compressor's instructions, it did come with a little pink information label attached across the protective caps on the ports, letting us know that yes, this compressor is pre-filled with 3 ounces of oil. The compressor also came with 2 bags of assorted O-rings based on application and need. And what we're going to do for now is see about getting the compressor in here so we can get our accessory belt sorted, and then that will help us guide getting the supercharger bracket and everything on. If we have to drop this compressor in order to get the clearance necessary to put the refrigerant lines on, once we're ready to that step, we can do so. We can also pop one of these caps when we're ready and add in the additional oil that we need to add into the system once we get everything assembled, or we can just inject it into the low side line once we have the entire system assembled and we know how much additional oil we're going to add. We can just inject it at that point. So let's see here. Let's get our new compressor into position, and we'll see if we can get a bolt started to kind of help us out. That may block your view for a little bit, and I apologize, but let's see if I can at least get the front bolts in to help support the weight of this thing. And I will tell you that being able to sit in front with the radiator and the front bumper and everything missing, to be able to just to hold that compressor up like there, oh, that's so much easier to change this thing without all this stuff in the way. Okay, so we got our 2 front ones started. They'll at least hold our weight. Let me pan you down a little bit. And let's see if we can get you over a bit more from where you're at. I got you on a flexible tripod mount. There we go. Now on the back here, there's a clamp on the wiring harness, a metallic clamp, just to help support the wiring harness. I'll see if I can get you back here to see this once I get the bolt back in it, that is. That should be it right there. Just making sure I get this bolt threaded through all that. Let me grab a light. Okay. Now what I want to see is back here. This bolt goes in, and did I make it into that bracket? Yes, we did. The very back of this AC compressor, this main wiring harness has a metal bracket zip tied to it that rear bolt goes through to help support this harness so that it doesn't move. And I don't know if I can get you back there to see it. Let's see, can we see it here? Not really. It's kind of blocked by the compressor, so you just kind of take my word for it. Maybe. We're gonna have to put some loom tape right here because this tape's coming separated where our AC compressor line comes out of for our electrical. Let me grab you out of your little spot here, and let's see if I can use the viewfinder to kind of show you what I'm talking about here. Right there. Let's see, we're going to try this blind, and then I'm going to go back and look at the footage and see if it'll even focus in and show it. But I got my finger, you can see this tab that comes down off the wiring harness, and that rear bolt captures it. Hopefully you were able to see that. If not, I apologize. I'm going to pause you. I'm going to go get some loom tape and some fabric loom tape and just retape this joint up while we're down here, and I'll be right back. And welcome back. So you can see that we got our loom retaped here, and I'll put a link in the description to the fabric tape I'm using. So far it seems to work out good. And we can make our electrical connection to our compressor. Actually, let's tighten our bolts up first. No, we can't. It's not going to bother it. Go ahead and make our electrical while we're here. Oh, I'm going to need some, I'm going to need to shoot some WD-40 in there. Let me grab that. I'll bring right back. And welcome back. So a little bit of WD-40 just to help flush the dirt out. And now we can go forward. And then once we're forward, hit our lock on the top And now our connector is nice and secured and locked in place. So awesome. So now what we can do is just work on getting our bolts tightened up, which I'll do again. You can see there's 3 of them, one there, and of course the mystery one that's kind of hard to see. It's in the back, the one with that clamp that, again, hopefully the video took. So I'm going to get these tight, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So just want to show you we've got everything tightened up at this point. We also installed our steering knuckle bolt. There's the part number there. Yes, I know. I talked about it in the previous video, but since it's kind of right here in your face, in our face, that reminded me. So that is now installed and done. Once again, that part number, and it did come pre-coated with Loctite, so it's in torqued and Loctite at this point. So with that being said, and our compressor now being the final accessory pulley that we needed to bolt back on, let me get you set up in a little bit different of a tripod so we can get a better view of this front ATI pulley hub. And then what we can do is work on getting the first ATI pulley, the 8-rib one that goes, again, the first one that'll go in here, the 8-rib one that is used to drive the accessories. And then once we have that one on here and torqued, we can put our accessory belt on and kind of look and see how things are coming. So let me get you set up for that, and I'll bring you right back. And welcome back. So I got your battery changed, so you got a nice fresh charge. I'm just getting the parts together to put this first pulley on. So this is going to be the pulley that comes with the ATI Super Damper Kit, as it's called. And we're going to be dealing with what they call T40 Plus. So these are Torx bits, but they're what they're called Torx Plus bits. Now when you order your balancer, or at least I did, I got mine through Summit, there was an option to buy the necessary T40 Plus bit along with the balancer. So there's the part number there. Now you can also go on Amazon if you like an entire set that are in about the 3/8 to 1/2 inch drive, depending on the size. It's a pretty inexpensive set there, and it goes from Torx Plus 8 to Torx Plus 60 in various increments. And my understanding is if you try to use a standard Torx and their fasteners, there'll be some slop in there. It won't fit snug. So we're going to use the Torx Plus 40 bit out of the kit, which comes in 3/8 drive. Now you can also just use, if you just want to order the one bit, you can also just chuck that bit into a socket and use it that way as well. I've done that with these type of bits before. But if you're looking for one that you can get some nice meat on, like I said, I'll put a link in the description to the Neiko kit, and to give credit where credit is due, the gentleman that I've linked his video before where he covered how to install his ATI hub, the Super Damper hub, onto his Jeep. He was the same individual that pointed out this Neiko kit. Now, if you remember from the previous videos, let's see, this is a very tight machine fit. This will only go on one way only, so sometimes you gotta kind of fidget with this to get it to slide onto the hub all the way. There we go. Now we're going to turn this until we get all of our bolt holes to match up. And it looks like it's only going to match up one way and one way only. And that looks like that's it right there. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, it's still a little bit off. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Nope, not yet. Oh, that's looking better. Okay. There we go. So that looks like that might do it right there. We've got all of our, let's make sure we're flat and pushed up against, and we are. So it looks like we've got all our bolt holes to match up. So we've got, what, 1, 2, 4, 6. Let's check our, now these bolts came with the balancer. And they're pre-threaded with some Loctite that you can see there. And looking at our installation here, we're dealing with T40 plus bolts, so they say take them to 16 foot-pounds on these T40 pluses. Okay. 2, 4, 6. Okay, yep, we got 6 of them. Let's see if we can get them started. Over just a little bit more. Oh, looks like we're not quite lined up with our bolt pattern. Okay, hold on. I gotta turn this a bit more. We're not quite there where we need to be. They were lining up, but not quite. That looks like that might be good there. That looks pretty straight. Those look pretty straight. Let's see if that will line up. I don't like the way that's going in. It's going in at a bit of an angle. Okay, so we got a hole there that's lined up. We got our dimple there. We got 3 dimples on here. I mean, that looks good. Okay, that was better. It was just a hair off still. Well, by machined fit, they mean machined fit. Just gonna go hand tight for now, and I will go in a crisscross pattern to do this. Now our remaining 3 holes that you see here, again, those bolts came with the balancer as well, but those will be the ones that we use to bolt on the Procharger pulley. So while we're tightening these up, knowing that these are Torx Plus, kind of got me to thinking about a question. Why do they constantly feel the need to reinvent fasteners? I understand types of fasteners like beveled, you know, being able to countersink them, things of that nature. Is these newer fasteners just that much better than the older Torx? Okay, we've got them all hand tight at this point. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to get a torque wrench set up for their 16 foot-pounds that they were asking for. And yep, once again, T40 plus, which is what we're doing with 16 foot-pounds. So in case you're curious, and that's what I'm reading, it's maybe kind of hard for you to see the small print in the camera, but they got a little bit of installation instructions in here, and they're telling us that T40 plus bolts, you're talking the 16 foot-pounds. If we had T45 plus, or what they're calling ferry cap bolts, they would go to 28 foot-pounds. And it says blue Loctite required on those. All bolts and nuts use ATI puller to remove dampener. So they give you a specific puller in case you have to remove this dampener. They don't want you using a 3-jaw. Now they made that requirement about the ferry bolts needing the blue Loctite. And these are the other 3 bolts that come in the kit. You can see they look to be about 12-point fasteners. And you can see they're already coated with some blue Loctite on them. So let me get these torqued down, get them marked, and I'll bring you right back. One moment. Okay, so I thought I might show you this. We're just doing the second round at 16. And 16 is not much, especially on these fasteners. You know? All right, perfect. Okay, I'm going to go grab the Procharger pulley and the Procharger manual now at this point, and just make sure they don't have anything special about their pulley other than just installing it using the factory, the hardware that came with the ATI dampener. So let me go grab those 2 items and I'll bring you back. And welcome back. So I got the necessary pieces together. I'm just kind of looking over the Procharger manual for this step, as this is the first the second supercharger piece going on this vehicle. The first one being the damper. Now we're going to do the supercharger pulley. And just to confirm, yes, it looks like they continue to use the what they call ferry, F-E-R-R-Y cap screws, which are these 12.38 bolts. Now the installation instructions on the dampener says blue Loctite on those with a value of 28 foot-pounds. The Procharger manual says to use red thread locker. To be honest with you, I don't want to use red thread locker on these bolts. My understanding is red thread locker requires heat to get them to break loose and remove. I'm sure they have their reasoning for that, but if I ever have to remove this, I'd rather not take a torch or some form of heat to it to break it free. And seeing as the ATI balancer does list these bolts And it says 28 foot-pounds with blue Loctite being required. That's what we're going to go with. Now, I guess to kind of make a middle ground on this, right or wrong, I'm going to put a little extra blue Loctite on these bolts before we get them into position. Now, the ATI pulley, as you can see, this one side has a lip in the center, and that lip is going to fall in place with our opening in our hub here. So we've got our 3 bolt positions. Now, there's a yellow sticker that comes on these balancers that I kind of peeled off ahead of time. And I'm looking for where I stuck it. But basically, it's just a yellow warning label stating that you have to have 9 bolts into this balancer before you use it. Now, the 6 bolts we have in are part of the base. These bolts also thread in, go through here and thread into the hub as well. So by the time we're done, even though these bolts will hold in the supercharger pulley, but they will also hold part of the 9 bolts that make up holding up our balancer. Sorry for the loud noise. So there we go. We've got that in our lip. Just rotate that slightly. And now that we know that's not enough of a lip for it to kind of hold itself in place, I'm going to get these bolts ready kind of off camera. Like I said, I'm just going to put a little extra blue Loctite on these threads. Again, just kind of maybe a kind of a middle ground. Like I said, I really don't want to use red Loctite on these unless somebody can chime into the description of this video, you know, and say that, yeah, they used blue and they had a problem, it came apart. I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand what this is going to be driving. It's going to be driving the supercharger, so there's going to be some torque on this. But I guess in that breath, if blue Loctite also works for the torque converter in a transmission, which takes all that force off your motor and converts it for the transmission to use, and it seems to hold up to blue Loctite just fine. I think it would work here, or at least we're going to find out. Okay, so as per normal, we got a little extra blue Loctite on those bolts. So just like we've done before, I'm going to start these by hand, and then I'll come in here and torque these down. Tell you what, that is a big pulley. In comparison to the size of the crank pulley, that's a beefy one. Okay, so we are hand tight. Okay, got it. So now what I'll do, and again, I'll do this off camera. It's just torquing 3 bolts, and per their instructions, we're gonna take them up to 28 foot-pounds. Same type of torque wrench. I got to change out to a slightly bigger one because the smaller one I have, 28 foot-pounds, would exceed its range. Change out to a slightly bigger one. Okay, so I'm going to get these torqued, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So we got all 3 of our bolts in. They are torqued. They are torqued 28 foot-pounds per the manual, or I should say per ATI's installation instructions. So I'm just putting a 3/8 ratchet into our tensioner device. I think what we can do next, because I would like to see it on here, is that I'm going to back you up a little bit. We're going to get the accessory belt in place and kind of see how all that looks and fits now that we've got this nice, beautiful looking accessory on the front of our motor. So let me go grab a belt and a belt diagram, and I'll bring you right back. One moment. And welcome back. Well, I wanted to put that rear belt on, and so that we could kind of see what the routing looked like, but unfortunately, as I was gearing up to do it and realized the belt looked probably a little bit shorter than it should have, and there was no mention in the ATI dampener kit about specifically needing a longer belt, I discovered that the belt that I ordered for this, the standard length, factory OEM belt, I ordered one that was too short, ordered the wrong size. So I've corrected that blunder. That unfortunately will not be here for a few days, but it does not impede our progress. We can continue on with the next piece. I think what I would like to do is just grab the thermostat and the thermostat housing real quick and get that situated, and that way that will help close this area off a bit more, as well as complete it, but then allow us to start gearing up to see about putting the supercharger bracket in place. It'll also give us a good feel as to whether that bracket is going to block, access to changing this pulley. Or changing this belt. I don't think that it will, but we'll give it a shot. So let me go grab the thermostat housing, and I'll bring you back. And welcome back. So I got you zoomed in here, and we're gonna replace the filler neck with a new one because the old one was getting kind of crusty and rusted. I'm just going to show you that Mopar part number. That is for the filler neck on this 5.7 for this 1500. Again, standard disclaimer: anytime I show a part number, if you're going to order it for your application, make sure it's compatible. But we're going to go in also, since we're doing a little bit of performance build here, as we know, we're going to go in with a 180-degree gauge thermostat, and that's our part number there. So we're going to go with a lower temperature thermostat from the factory. I think the factory is like 216, 218, something like that. It's in the 200s if I recall correctly. So naturally, with making this change and also removing the fan clutch and going over to an electric fan, and again, we're going to be using an electric fan out of a V6, so it takes up the whole front of the radiator, and you'll see that when we get to this point of the install. But going over to a 180-degree thermostat is going to mean that we're going to have to keep an eyeball, or make sure that we modify and tell the vehicle when to turn the cooling fans on, because it's going to have to come on a little bit sooner than they normally would. What I'm looking for right now is the writing on the thermostat, just to verify that what we have is a 180-degree one. Usually they're written on here, pretty small print. I don't see it written on this one. Not that I think that it isn't, but you never quite know if what you got in the box is what you're supposed to have in the box, if you know what I mean. Okay, let me continue to look over this thing. The actual thermostat itself, I'm just looking for the outside of it to see if it's marked. Let me continue to work on this so I'm not wasting a bunch of your time, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So I spent some time looking at our thermostat here again, just trying to verify it. I did find one part number that does seem to cross over to a Gates 180-degree thermostat, so looks like we got what we need. Now these gaskets, these thermostats have their own sealing gasket applied to them, so there won't be one on the housing. So just put them in there like that, and just for, there we go. Just want to make that little thing. Just want to make it straight. No particular reason. Getting the housing bolts out of our bag and tag from our disassembly. And the reason why I'm going with an actual OEM thermostat housing is that I've gotten the aftermarket thermostat housings before, and although they bolted up and fit just fine and they do work, I had an issue with the upper radiator, with the opening, with the diameter for the upper radiator hose being bigger than the factory upper radiator hose would allow for fitment. So I ended up buying a Mopar upper radiator hose, and I had an aftermarket upper radiator housing, a thermostat housing, thinking that, okay, you know, it's fine, it should fit, and then want to try to put the clamp around it. Now the hose itself would fit, but the radiator, the spring compression clamp, wouldn't squeeze out wide enough to get around the slightly bigger diameter opening of the aftermarket housing. So that's my beef on that one. So in order to keep that from happening again, when it comes to it, I'll just, you know, pay the extra couple bucks and get a factory outlet. Now, don't get me wrong, it's easily fixed, which is what we ended up doing, was going out and just getting a slightly bigger clamp to put around it, but kind of annoying in the same breath. So let me get this tightened up. I'm going to check for a torque spec. We'll get it torqued down, and I'll bring you back for the next piece. One moment. And welcome back after the next battery change of the day. So what I'm looking over, and what I figured that we could do next, is see if we can get at least our main bracket for a supercharger installed. So I'm just kind of looking over the instructions, and I'm not following their instructions verbatim step by step, because obviously we're jumping around a little bit because of the state of the vehicle, the state of the way that we have things installed, pulling the motor, putting the motor in, so on and so forth. And it does make one comment here about before installing the main bracket to reinstall the factory accessory belt, which makes sense because this supercharger belt is going to run on top of, or in front of, I should say, the factory one. But remember, we're only putting the bracket in. We're not running the belt for the supercharger yet. So I think we'll be able to put this bracket in just fine, and it's not going to impede our progress when our correctly ordered accessory belt finally gets in the next few days. So kind of just looking over what they've got here. So it's relatively straightforward. They give you a nice exploded view of what it needs to look like. And looks like we've got some sub brackets that we have to install first, which is this triangle shaped piece here. And then we've got some work we need to do to the bracket itself. Looks like we have to temporarily remove some idlers and then put them back on later. Now there's some references to steps inside their instructions, such as zip tie to 5/8 inch cooling hose coming out of the thermostat housing. Well, we're not going to have that on this one because we don't have a coolant bypass on this year Ram. So we know that in some of these steps, because this document goes for 2009 to 2018. And so again, there's going to be situations in which they may show you a picture which are a little bit different, or there may be a step that you actually don't need to do. So let's do this. Let's start with there. first one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you probably back on a smaller tripod, and what we can do is open this up and kind of see the goodies that we got in it. So let me get you a smaller tripod and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So let's go ahead and get our package open. Now this is every time Procharger packages something in a separate package, you'll get like a packing slip that comes with it, just to tell you the contents of what's inside that particular package. Of course, here's all our mounting hardware. Bolts, spacers, and yes, Allen bolts. Normally those are used for the head unit when we get around to that piece. Now you'll notice that these pieces have been anodized black. That is actually an option. They don't come that colored that way from Procharger unless you pay a little extra money and order that option. So everything that you see here, you'll notice it's where it needed to be anodized black, it's black rather than like the base satin or the aluminum, straight up aluminum color that would normally come in. Okay, I'm just over here getting the bracket cut out of its tape. In fact, let me scoot this stuff off to the side, make some room here. Oh yeah. Check out that nice hunk of CNC milled aluminum. I believe it's aluminum. It's really, I mean, there's not going to be pretty much any deflection in that at all. Oh, let's see. Do they have us using, nope, they're using all the bolts. So what we can do is just, we'll leave the hex bolts into the bag until we're ready to put the head unit on, which will probably be in a different video, to be honest with you. I think once we get this bracket installed, we'll call it. And then we'll come back and pick up some more pieces in the next one. Got quite a bit done today. Lost a little bit of time because I had to determine that I actually ordered, like I said, the wrong accessory belt for the truck, so unfortunately. But we got a lot done so far, and we got a lot more to do. But we're getting there day by day. Whew. That's some long bolts. Okay, so it looks like the pieces we're going to be dealing with immediately is going to be this spacer, this sub bracket, as they call it. We got a couple of standoffs. We got the main bracket itself, of course, some supporting bolts. And let's see what the next step is. Okay, we're not going to worry about putting the factory accessory bolt on because A, we don't have it, and B, we don't need to do that right now. This is a photo at the right, shows mounting locations for the main and sub brackets. So if I'm seeing this correctly, part of the main bracket looks like it bolts into some threaded areas on the passenger side cylinder head. So I see those. I'll show these here in a bit. And the sub bracket location, I'm just trying to make out what their picture is. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see what they're pointing at in this picture, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a colored picture. It's a very nice guide, but that's not zoomed in quite far enough. I guess it'll become self-evident. Let's see here. So, do they have a closer picture of that? Okay, so that's the cylinder head there. I'll tell you what, we can put the sub bracket on because I can see where that needs to go. So they want us to install the sub bracket to the cylinder head, yet using the supplied 2 M8 by 40 bolts and washers. Okay, let's see. So it looks like they want smooth side out. Yeah, probably something like that. If I had to hazard a guess, is how that's going to look. Okay, so now that we got it unboxed, let me get you back on the bigger tripod and we'll see what it's going to take to start getting some of this stuff bolted to this motor. So let me bring you right back. And welcome back. So I've just been looking over their diagram here and their picture examples. What it looks like we need to do with this first piece, with kind of the triangle portion facing up. I got you zoomed in as close as I could get to that passenger side cylinder head. Now there was a wiring harness clip right here up at the top of this corner. Sorry, the thermostat housing's in the way. Let me pick you up. And this clip I had to take back out because they're using the threaded hole for one of their bolts. So what's going to happen, and it matches their picture, is that this bracket's going to get installed and that cam wire is just going to our cam position sensor is just going to kind of lay in front of it for now. Let me get you back down on the ground here. There we go. And then we'll see about getting this at least tight, or hand tight anyway. And again, I'm just looking at their picture. You're gonna have to forgive me. We're gonna have to kind of work our way through this together. Haven't done one of these on a 1500 before, so it may take a little bit to kind of figure out where stuff needs to line up. So it looks like the other bolt hole that we're going to use, which is threaded, is this one here and the one right above it. So what I'm going to do, just to make sure that we get any excess residual dirt out of that bolt hole, because it hasn't had anything in it. I see that there's threads in there, so we're good there. Just gonna put a little WD-40 in there just to help lubricate those threads a little bit. And then let me get a small pocket screwdriver. Actually, I don't need a pocket screwdriver. I can just twist up a little piece of towel here. I'm just going to soak up remaining of that oil. Yeah, just make sure we're clear. I just didn't want a big blob of oil in there, you know, end up hydro locking something, or end up basically splitting metal by trying to compress a liquid. So let's see what you see. Okay. Try to keep my hands out of the way so you can see as much of this, but like I said, it's going to be a little bit weird. Okay, there's that one lined up. And there's that one lined up. Okay, that thread is started in that lower hole. Thank goodness for WD-40. And then we'll try to get the upper one started as well. See, that's what I was wanting to see stuff like this. Is what's happening is, if you were doing this in the vehicle, what's kind of killing you and not giving you a straight shot is that thermostat housing that we just put in. So let me get a shorter extension, something I could use as a handle. So I want to get onto that bolt, like I said, and at least get it to start and thread by hand. Yeah, even that's going to be too long. So you get a little bit of a space issue. Okay, it feels like it started. Just give it a couple of quick turns here. Yeah, it's going. Whew, that's a tight fit around that. These bolt holes, they're countersunk into the bracket, as you can see. This isn't a thick-walled extension by any means, but it just gets in there, let me tell you. Okay, let me loosen the top one up just to give that bottom one a bit more play. Okay. Backing this bolt out a little bit just to kind of look at the crud that's on it. Just like I said, that bolt hole was fairly rusty. Yeah, it's pretty clean in there now anyway. Probably wouldn't hurt if you're doing this job to run a thread chaser, if you've got one, through bolt holes like that. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a different socket. It's shifting its position. And now I can't get the socket into the recessed portion they cut for the bolts. Yeah. Okay. Let me do this. Let me get a slightly different, see if I got a slightly skinnier socket I could use on there. I think I might have a thin wall that'll get into that. So one moment. And welcome back. So yeah, just a standard chrome deep well fits into that space much better than those stubby sockets that I was using. But now I need a chrome shallow well to tighten the top one. So, oh joy, one moment. And welcome back. So I got a shallow 13. There we go. Seems nice and tight. There we go. So that should now be our sub bracket. And no, they don't have a torque value in their items, so I'm going with what at least to me appears to be tight and snug. So that's a sub bracket. And they say before installing the main bracket, remove the idler pulley shown to the right with a 9/16. So we got two idler pulleys on this bracket, and I'll take you off the tripod and show it to you here. So what they want us to do is remove this idler, and then proceed to put the bracket on the vehicle. So let me pause you, get those idlers off, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So just in the process of looking at their bracket, when I took the idlers off, this one looks like it can be in one of three positions, so I just marked it with a Sharpie. Mark that one. This one on this end isn't too bad because it's the only one that's threaded. This bolt, however, this was interesting. Because it's been powder coated, it added just a little bit of material inside these bolt holes. And this is the thicker one of the ones that mount this bracket. And it wouldn't go through there. So I ended up having to just take a drill and drill that bolt hole out a little bit. And it wasn't much. Literally what it removed was just a little bit of the powder coating. And that ended up being a 25/64 bit. And just reamed it through there. And now, as you can see, the bolt they want you to use in that corner now falls through without an issue. So the first thing, because that's the first bolt they want us to put in, is that bolt with, and we've got two spacers. One's longer than the other one. We need the longer spacer. We need the 6.35 inch spacer, which should be this one. And where it's going to go is over here on our engine block. It looks like next to our oil pressure switch or sender is that bolt hole right there that bolt's going to thread into. I did do like we did the last one and just shot a little bit of WD-40 down in there and kind of let it sit for a little bit because it was a little bit rusty since nothing's been in there. What I'm going to do is just thread the bolt in a little bit by hand before we put the bracket up there. So let me do that, make sure those threads are nice and clean, and I'll put you in tripod and bring you back. One moment. So just going to show you here, we're still working on this, and you can see the rust and stuff that's coming out of there. So just continue to douse it with a little WD-40, kind of picking away at it to get the crud to run out, and then occasionally running the bolt through it, just the bolt, until we get a nice clean set of threads. I mean, it is going in, it's easier, but you can tell when you hit a rust patch, and then we'll back it out and kind of irrigate the hole a little bit again with some more WD. So again, just taking our time and being careful of stuff like this, because we don't want to strip that out, since that's going to be a pretty important mount point for us. So I'm going to continue to work on this and bring you back. Well, matter of fact, before I let you go, I can show you what it's doing. Shoot a little bit more WD in there, and you can just see that rust just run out of that hole. We're going to continue to work on it. Bring it back. One moment. And welcome back. So I ended up going through and drilling that one bolt hole out inside the plate a little bit further, because I wanted to be able to free spin this bolt nice and easy, so it was still binding against their plate because of the powder coating, just a hair. And because it's the first bolt we're putting in and it can kind of rock a little bit side to side, I don't want this bolt cross-threading and starting crooked there on the bottom. And like I said, it's a little bit cumbersome because of the weight of this bracket. But I'm going to block your view really quick when I start this. So I'm just supporting the bottom of it. You can see with my hand. And all I'm looking to do, now that I can turn the bolt, is verify I can start this bolt by hand. I can tell you right now it's not straight. Yeah, okay, I think that got it. Yeah, it's going in nice and easy. Because if I let the weight of this bracket down, it binds the bolt. There we go. Okay. So that's it. It's nice and straight. It's like only, again, just hand tight with a socket. Yeah, like I said, that was a little bit cumbersome there, because you definitely don't want to, hit that thing at an angle and cross thread that, being one of the critical connection points. I can see if you had the radiator and everything installed in this vehicle that I don't know, you might want to remove it for this install, just to give you the extra room. Now, just to show you here, I haven't swung this thing into position yet, but it looks like we're going to have a couple of bolt holes here that are going to come through and meet up with the block that we put in earlier. Potentially. Have to look and see how things go. And right now it looks like, not that it's going to block it per se, but we haven't put our cooling pipes on for our heater core yet. So we need to kind of keep that in mind, that we may have to pull this bracket out of the way and put those on, or just reach in behind it to close up the clamps. But let me grab the next piece of hardware. Let me get you on a bigger tripod so you can look down this way, and I'll bring you back. And welcome back. So let me grab the next set of hardware that they're calling for, now that we have our first bottom bolt in, at least hand tight, and it's right now it's just resting up against the fender liner to support itself. So they say we need the 6 3/5" tube. Oh, already did that one. I'm reading it twice. 5.845" spacer, which we only have one other spacer, so it would be that one. And we need the M8 by 180 millimeter bolt. So there's two M8s by 160 and only a single 180. So it would be that one right there. Oh, let's see. Yep. Give me that for the socket. We've got our spacer. And this spacer. Let's see. Loosely install the tube spacer bolt washer to the bottom cylinder head bolt hole. So yet another cylinder head bolt hole. And the M8 by 180 is diagonal up, so it's that one right there. Okay. So the one they're referring to is this one right here, it looks like. So kind of at an angle. This is where the idler would have been. This is where we're going to be. And there is a bolt hole right here in the cylinder. But as per our normal, I'm going to shoot that with a little WD-40. Now these cylinder heads were cleaned up a little bit, so there's not as much junk inside these unused bolt holes. Okay, just give it some nice lubrication. So it looks like what we need to do is take our spacer that's going to go behind our bracket, or I should say into our bracket, through our spacer, and we're going to have to pick our bracket up slightly to get this to line up. So let me do this. I've got to get my lower hand in here to help support this, because once again, we don't want to cross thread this bolt. I'm probably blocking your view. I apologize. There's not much I can do. Okay, we've got this one started nice by hand. Perfect. Let me show you what we're looking like back here. So there's our two spacers. There's our bottom spacer with a bigger bolt. There's a smaller spacer that we have up top threaded into the cylinder head here. So let me get a couple more turns on that just to get that hand tight, and then we'll move on to the next piece. And you saw me have to pick the head up, pick up the bracket there. The bracket was leaning down, putting pressure on that bolt, just kind of making it hard to turn. Interesting little setup, just like it was on the 2500, as far as how they're taking advantage of using all the unused various already threaded bolt holes. Okay, that's a little bit hand tight. I want to tighten up the bottom one while we're here. There we go. And we may have to loosen those up, but at least they'll support the bracket for now. So on to the next piece we're going to need. We've done that. We've got that bracket, that bracket. Okay, so we got the 2-hole spacer next, plus these 2 bolts. So install the main bracket to the sub bracket using the 2-hole spacer, fastening the main bracket using supplied 2 M8 by 160 bolts. So what's going to happen is that we got our 2-hole spacer, and it looks like what's going to happen is it's going to go between here. So we got to loosen our bolts up a little bit because we're kind of pinched in a little bit. But it's going to go between here and that little triangle block of material that we put on earlier. Let me loosen these up and I'll guide you over and show you what I mean, or bring you over and show you what I mean. There we go. Okay, that's loose enough. Grab our second bolt, grab you. So what I'm going to be doing is taking this spacer, this 2-hole spacer, coming in here like this, literally just like that, between this block we put on earlier and the mounting bracket itself, so it ends up like this. So let's take our bracket, levering up. Pick up on our bracket to align our bolts. Come on, line up. See, the weight of the bracket's pulling it forward, so gonna have to fidget with it a little bit to get things to line up. And again, just like everything else we've done with this bracket thus far, we definitely want to start spinning these by hand. Nope, that is not wanting to start. It's the weight of the bracket that keeps pulling it out of position, so you kind of need 3 arms to do this. Let's see if I can pick it up with my forearm here. Maybe be able to get this first one to start. Okay, nope. Okay, well, you get the idea. I'm gonna fight with this until I get those bolts to line up, and once I get one started, I'll bring you back. But you kind of get an idea what you're dealing with. The bolts are loose, so the bracket's going to want to flex each direction, while at the same time you got to get these things straight on to thread into this bracket that we installed earlier. So let me bring you back so I can kind of get where you're at, get a little bit more straight on view into this, and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. Well, we've got our piece thread chased at this point. The bolts are threading in far easier. Let's see, let's give this another go. So once again, we just got our spacer that's going to go between our supercharger bracket and the sub bracket that we put on the head. Once again, let's see if we can just get them to start by hand. Got to get the bracket in the right spot for this bolt hole. For this bolt to fall in the spot with the bolt hole. Okay. Let me get down here so I can support the bottom of this bracket better. Again, I'm just going to use my forearm to support the bracket. Okay. Let me see if I can get the bottom one started. It feels like that caught by a couple of threads. Okay. Okay, yeah, we're getting them, gonna be able to get them to start now. It's a process of just kind of picking up on the bracket at this point and just taking the tension off. So let me continue to get these in here, get them snug, and I'll bring it back. One moment. And welcome back. Well, as you can see, we got our bolts all tight at this point, and you grabbing that bracket, you can actually shake the entire truck. So it's nice and sturdy. So you've got the one brace here, and then the two bolts that go into that sub bracket, as they call it, and then one more attachment point in the corner of the head, and one more attachment point on the block. So it looks like 4 attachment points total between this supercharger bracket and the motor itself. So like I said, the only issues we ran into on this one was just making sure that the bolt holes in the cylinder head and in the block they wanted to use were just free of rust and things of that nature, since again, it's an older engine block, so it hasn't had anything in there before, so it's just a little bit of rust accumulation. So I guess make sure the threads and everything are clean before you begin. Also, the other issue we ran into, 2 more issues with the powder coating. The powder coating on this one seeped into the threads, and we had to thread chase this back sub block or sub bracket, so that way these bolts would thread into it. And then we had the final issue with the powder coating, getting this bolt through the hole. Again, we just had to hit it with a drill bit real quick and knock the powder coating out of the hole to get the clearances back. Other than that, the only thing with it is just a little bit of cumbersome, trying to hold that bracket in place while you get those bolts started, because again, you want to start them straight. You don't want them to be cocked because of the weight of the bracket and then cross thread. That'll end of the bad day. So I strongly suggest you either have something sitting here in the frame, or you can kind of do like I did and get down here with your forearm and steady it with, you know, one hand kind of like this while you're trying to thread the bolts with the other hand. Or if you got a helper, you can just have the helper kind of hold the bracket in place when you get the bolts started. Well, the last thing they wanted us to do, which has been done, is to put their pulleys back on. Basically retighten the bolts with a little bit of thread locker, which we've done that. I use blue thread locker just to be fair, They mentioned red thread locker in the book. I don't really want to get into using red thread locker and have to use heat if those bolts need to come out. The other supercharger that we have, the 2500, its pulleys are blue thread locked into this as well, because they sent me a revised bracket on that one, just due to some alignment issues with the belt and such. So I took the pulleys off the old bracket, used blue thread locker, and it's been that way for 3 years now, and it's been fine. So what else did we do today? We got our power steering pump cleaned up and remounted. We also got our air conditioning compressor mounted and its electrical connector put back in. So we're good there, and it doesn't look like our power steering pump is dripping anymore, which is nice, but I'll put something underneath here anyway. And more importantly, we got the 2 pulleys on our ATI hub installed, the inner one, which will be for the accessories, and the outer one, which of course, as you can see, now lines up with our supercharger bracket. So that'll be the driving force there. So everything here has been torqued. This is good, good, and good. So I think we're going to call it a video on this one. Like I said, it's been a bit of a long day. I know looking at about an hour or something video, it probably doesn't seem like it, but you know, chasing little issues like this where you have to thread chase a bracket, or, you know, drill out a hole to get rid of some clear coat, it eats away at your time a lot more than you think that it would. But I think that looks cool. We're coming along. We're coming along nicely. It's looking quite nice. I'm happy with it. So hopefully you found the information in this video useful. And in the next video that we come back with, I think what we'll do, since we're kind of losing a little bit of our space here to get to where these hoses go for the heater core, I'm going to flush that heater core out real quick. We're going to pull these hoses off and replace them with a factory set, which I have over there in the floor already. The nice thing about the factory set is it comes with all new plastic clamps as well as metal clamps. So it'll come with a new attachment point already on the hoses, as well as the 2 attachment points needed to clip into the valve cover. Hopefully we don't have to loosen this bracket up to get it to go underneath this lower one, because that's pretty close, but I think it might be just enough space in there to get that hose into there. Like I said, this is an older model, so we didn't have the coolant bypass steps that we had to do on this one. Last thing they had you do was zip tie a coolant line that was coming out of here for the bypass into this bracket. But again, we don't have that. We don't need to worry about it. And we also discovered that I messed up, and for the accessories on this truck, I ordered the wrong size belt. So that has been fixed and on its way. So yeah, like I said, I think when we come back, we'll work on getting the heater core hoses in, get that taken care of. If we have to loosen up this bracket to get it back in there, we will. And we can't really put the belt on for the supercharger yet until we get the accessory belt, because the accessory belt has to be there first just due to the overlap. So we should be able to work on heater core hoses. We should be able to get the supercharger itself mounted into the bracket at least. And we did buy the optional remote oil drain line, so we can get that installed and kind of figure out where that is going to be affixed to and or dangle. We may have to remove this piece. As I was talking about earlier, it does say in their instructions to remove this, probably for clearance. But if we can leave it in there, I might, just because it serves as a support, a top support for the fender liner. You don't really, I mean, it's not really going to cause much of an issue to take these 2 screws out of the fender liner and remove this. But if we can leave it in there, I will. Again, if not, we'll take it out. So again, I guess it's kind of a long-winded way of saying we've got a lot done. We've got a lot more to go yet, but it's getting there. It's taking shape. So, for those of you who have subscribed, thank you very much. If you have held on this long listening to all my rambling and all of this video, again, I thank you immensely. If you have not subbed already, please consider doing so. And with that, I thank you, and I'll bring you back for the next one. Thank you much.